And welcome back to Cool Stuff Games in Maitland for our Florida Midseason Showdown. Matthew Courtney alongside Brady Smith, ready for round 3 here, just about to start. We've got an exciting one. We're going to have Robert Bosch against Janice Lee.
So this is going to be kind of cool. First of all, Robert Bosch, he's a personal friend of mine. He literally lives maybe like 5 minutes away from me. So yeah, I'm the guy that introduced him to Pokemon. He's been working closely with Riley Factora actually very recently. They've been playing a lot of sets. I know that. I know that. Basically, Robert, he's kind of like he's kind of a wild card right now. It's like he has a lot of work to go ahead of him, but he has the fundamentals down. He knows how to play this game. So I'm very excited to see how he plays. Now, as for Janice Lee, I've played against Janice a few times at a few of these locals. There's Janice right there. I know that she has a few birds. That's something about her, a little fun fact. And then the other fun fact about her is that I played up against her in 2017 Florida, and she knocked me down to losers at X2. So basically, Janice, she's very good. She knows the fundamentals of the game. She's very good with her team building. It's a very it's a different kind of approach. And she plays very like by the book. From whenever I played up against her in the past, so I haven't really seen her do anything these past few years. So it's very cool to see her come back. And I wonder how she will compete up against Robert here.
I myself have a very, very little bit of back history with Robert Bosch. During the first mid-season showdown last year here in Maitland, Robert and I got paired up against each other in round 4, both sitting at 3-0, and I got a very lucky critical hit into his Flutter main and was able to take the 3-game set to move to 4-0, which was super exciting because it was my first local, my first real experience here in the Florida VGC scene, and barring that critical hit, I would have dropped to 3-1, and so yeah, I'd like to see Robert be on the better side of RNG this time to make up for that. But again, two players that running very different teams. We get to see the return of the Alolan Ninetales on Janice's side, and some other, freshly legal Pokemon here with Regulation E in Empoleon.
This is a very cool matchup. So I've seen a lot of Ninetales Baxcalibur on ladder. Essentially, how it functions is you use Ninetales to allow your Baxcalibur to just be set up, because Snow boosts Baxcalibur's defense stat, and then you also use Aurora Veil to make sure you can get up a Swords Dance setup. Janice, however, instead of going for Citrus, like I've seen a lot of them go for, or maybe like a Clear Amulet, she's opted to have the loaded dice, and she has doubled down, not having Glaive Shot, going for Scale Shot, actually, and Icicle Spear. So that'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. The rest of her team is, as you can see, Empoleon, Ninetales, Landorus, Rillaboom, and Armorage. So there's no Indeedee with the Armorage. It's just an individual Armorage. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, no way to stop the priority, but the Armorage does have Trick Room, giving them a speed control option. One, interesting thing with Baxcalibur, Scale Shot is a new learned move. It was a move introduced with the DLC, and it's going to make its presence felt immediately here with Alolan Ninetales summoning the snow and Dragonite Shenpao on the side for Roberts.
This is pretty cool. So first of all, I have to point out that Dragonite is obviously 4 times weak to both of the stabs of this current board, Baxcalibur and Ninetales. So Dragonite is probably going to be forced to go for something like a Terra Normal just to make sure that it can survive this turn. If not, switch out. Janice can leverage that information to decide what she's going to click. I feel like Aurora Veil is very safe here inside the early game. You just being inside of Snow, boosting up your defenses from both of your Pokemon is very, very valuable up against these two physical attackers here.
Absolutely. It's a common lead that we've seen ever since Shenpao became legal in Regulation C. Dragonite, Chien-Pao, Baxcalibur opting to protect, but Dragonite going Terra Normal to remove that 4 times weakness. Extreme Speed into the protect, not going to do anything here. Chien-Pao Ice Spinner into the Baxcalibur, a great turn 1 for Janice Lee as she is now able to get up the Aurora Veil, boosting the defense and special defense of all of the Mons on her side of the field, and it's going to stick around for 8 turns because it's also holding that light clay.
I was going to say, that is literally best case scenario if you are Janice here. Because the Aurora Veil is a setup, it usually means that you have to spin that turn, which means your opponent can maybe knock you out with the Steel-type attack because it's super effective in Ninetales, or knock out your Ninetales in general. But Robert decided to double tap the Baxcalibur, hoping he could get off that attack before the Aurora Veil comes out. However, the Protect kind of clutched that out, and we can see the value it's putting in on this turn. As this double up, it should be able to live this pretty easily. With the Extreme Speed and also the Ice Spinner. Baxcalibur, it is in range of E-Speed this following turn. Skill Shot misses the Chien-Pao, and now it's in Robert's favor.
Yikes. As great as that turn 1 was for Janice, that turn 2, not being able to take out the Chien-Pao. Scale Shot sitting at 90% accuracy, so 9 out of 10 times, you're feeling pretty good. In this situation, not so much.
Yeah, this is, I would say that this is more inside Robert's favor now. Even though the Aurora Veil is up, being able to click Extreme Speed into the Baxcalibur here and knock it out in one shot is very, very valuable. If I was Robert, I would kind of just know that because that slot's pinned down, it can't move. So you could do one of two things. You could either read that's going to protect, like Robert actually just did here, and you could have like double tapped out maybe a Sacred Sword as well, or you could have just E-Speeded the Baxcalibur. So honestly, this is not too bad at all, assuming that this attack from the... Oh, okay.
A nice adjustment by Janice on that play to read the Protect by the Chien-Pao, able to knock out the Terra Normal Choice Band Dragonite, removing a huge offensive threat on Robert's side of the field while taking a 4-3 Mon advantage.
So I felt like Robert just threw away a favorable position that he could have been in, because we saw that Ice Spinner actually would have done enough damage onto the Baxcalibur and would have knocked it out from this range, and then also the Extreme Speed could have knocked out, or at least put the Ninetales into range of being knocked out this following turn. So, I feel like Robert kind of let the momentum get to his head. Instead of just going for the free knockout into the Baxcalibur, he decided to let it sit there for a turn. And, well, now guess what? Baxcalibur's all set up. It got its speed boost, so now it's going to look to get another attack off here.
It is staring across from a Choice Scarfed Urshifu Rapid Strike on the other side of the field for Robert. So this is going to be good information for both of these players. Now, Urshifu does have a higher base speed than Baxcalibur traditionally, but Baxcalibur not going to risk the being outsped and is going to remove itself from the field in favor of Rillaboom.
So Rillaboom's really cool here. This does resist the potential of Surging Strikes, which could be kind of cool. It also kind of stops the Sucker Punch from coming out, which you do actually see from the Chien-Pao. And the other thing, okay, so Robert actually does opt to go for the Surging Strikes, not taking the bait, and just entirely ignoring the Baxcalibur, knowing that the Sucker Punch would probably knock it out regardless, because it did lower its defense, letting the Surging Strike just knock out Ninetales. So this is kind of interesting now.
And those critical hits by Urshifu, of course, Surging Strikes always is a critical hit, ignoring the effects of the Aurora Veil. So while under most situations, having that Aurora Veil up is going to help your survivability in these situations, staring across from the one Mon that can avoid dealing with it altogether, that's a tough spot for Janice.
Yeah, and something that should also be noted is that even though obviously the critical hits do impact the shield or the Aurora Veil, it allows you to crit right through that. It should also be noted that Janice has positioned herself inside of a board where the Surging Strikes are resisted to both. Now, that being said, I still think the Surging Strikes has a solid shot of knocking out this this Baxcalibur because it's so low, and not to mention it's combined with the Sword of Ruin. So Urshifu cannot hit the Rillaboom for super effective damage if it needs to. However, it does get faked out.
But yes, the Choice Scarf, while you're going to be faster, is very nice. You can't protect from the fake out. Ice Spinner into the Rillaboom does a good deal of damage, but it does survive. Scale Shot into the Qianpao. 1, 2,
You know, it's at least getting 4.
3 there. Yeah, that's going to be plenty. Thanks to the loaded dice, it gets at least 4. And now the Sword of Ruin reducing the defense on Janice's, or on the entire board, is now off the field.
So this is interesting because the snow is now down, and Robert really cleared the pathway for this Kingambit to come in. So the one thing which you should be wary of is that this Rillaboom does have access to the Brick Break, as we can see right here. Now, Brick Break could theoretically knock out the Kingambit. However, Robert's positioned himself inside of a board to where the Surging Strike should be able to knock out this Rillaboom from this range, meaning that Kingambit will probably be able to close out this endgame by itself.
And Urshifu's Rapid Strike is already resisted by Rillaboom's Grass. It's Terra Fire, which you really don't want to go into here. Kingambit's Sucker Punch, that in and of itself is enough to knock out the Rillaboom. And we already know that the Urshifu outspeeds the Baxcalibur, and with 3 guaranteed hits, it is going to take out the Baxcalibur, leaving Robert with both Mons pretty healthy. Kingambit full health. All Urshifu's taken was a fake out, and staring down a water type and a dark type. Not a great feeling to have your Fire Psychic as your lone Mon left on the field for Janice.
Not at all. If I was Robert, I'd be feeling pretty good about this. In my opinion, you have a very, very safe turn here. All you have to do is go for the Surging Strikes, and then you could Sucker Punch down the Armorose until it faints, because even if the Sucker Punch does not knock it out in this one turn, you'll be able to knock out it inside the following turn. And Armorose here, it can really only do 2 things. Either Heat Wave, and then maybe it crits the Kingambit, and maybe that knocks it out, or it goes for a Psychic move onto the Urshifu. And if it goes for a Psychic move onto Urshifu, then it's not attacking Kingambit, meaning Kingambit can get off another attack the following turn. So Rob really just positioned himself to be like a brilliant endgame here. Actually, I think, now, after I said that, I think Kowtow would actually probably be better here, because knowing that the Armorers cannot knock out both slots, you get off free Kowtow 100%, and then next turn, quick Sucker Punch. But we do see the Psyshock.
Psyshock is able to knock out the Urshifu or Armarouge, unable to prevent the upcoming Sucker Punch. A Kowtow Cleave lives on 5, a critical hit. In this situation, you're pretty much locked if you're Robert. You're feeling pretty good.
Yeah, so, if there was Protect, technically Janice could have won that. However, because it is Trick Room, there's no way you can work around the Sucker Punch, because Kingambit is presumably slower than this Armorose. And then what would kind of happen is you go for Trick Room, then Kingambit's like, great, all right, now you avoided the Sucker Punch last turn, but now I'm slower / faster than you because Trick Room's up. I want to knock you out. So Robert really positioned himself very, very excellently for the endgame of Kingambit, really just clearing the pathway for it to kind of come in at the right moment in time. Instead of, leading with Kingambit in the early game and just trying to exert a lot of pressure that way, he decided to save it to the very end in the last part of the game. We saw it kind of clutch out the end game. So I think Kingambit's going to be one of his big shooters inside of this round.
I couldn't agree more. Now, we did see the Scale Shot miss onto the Qianpao, which ultimately really changed what was a fantastic turn 1 for Janice. Into, now she's on her back foot because she wasn't able to take out the Qianpao. The Sword of Ruin was still on the field, allowing the Dragonite to do extra damage into the Ninetales. And if you're Janice, I think you got to try and find a way to prevent that Dragonite Qianpao lead from chunking your team at the beginning.
I was going to say, if I was Janice, I actually like my lead a lot. Turn 1, because remember what happened. So turn 1, Janice technically won the turn 1. You would think that if you win like a turn 1 like that, you should be able to kind of win the game. However, Janice's team was not quite capable of withstanding Robert's just the full offense he was trying to swing there. So we saw him come there with extreme speed onto the Baxcalibur, and then also combine that with Ice Spinner. Basically, Robert just kind of like kept the offense going on the entire game, but just like abusing the Chin Pao and the Dragonite's capabilities for just kind of shredding a hole into very specific comps. Not the Aurora Veil nor the Snow was actually enough to kind of outlast that, even though you would think it would be, but Dragonite Chin Pao is way too strong.
Absolutely. That's an interesting note that you felt pretty good about your setup. You think, all right, I've got my tanks on the field with all of these boosts, but Dragonite, been a menace for all of these years, is going to continue. Now we do see a switch up for Janice Lee, opting for the Empoleon. This is an exciting move for her, mostly because I love the little penguin.
So this Empoleon, we know Robert can see the team sheet, so this Empoleon does not have Protect. So if I was Robert, I would honestly be thinking, okay, great, so I just need to knock out this Empoleon as quickly as possible, knowing it cannot Protect before Aurora Veil goes up, before anything funny happens. So I would be trying to go into that sniper mode. You could either like snipe the Ninetales if you think Aurora Veil is going to be coming out. You can click Terra Normal Extreme Speed plus a Sacred Sword into the Ninetales to knock it out, in which case no Aurora Veil would come out. Alternatively, you could also just look at the Empoleon and think that because it's an Empoleon, I'm not really too pressured by it. You could ignore it, or you could just knock it out in one shot with maybe E-Speed plus Sacred Sword. That combination could theoretically get it. However, it is Terra Ghost, so it's a little bit scary to knock
that's
that in.
a lot of damage, and he does exactly what you were talking about, preventing that Aurora Veil from coming up, also preventing Snow from happening again. A Flash Cannon into the Chin Pao, Focus Sash saves it on 1 health, but Janice already down 1 mon and didn't get a chance to put any damage into the big threat that is Dragonite.
That's the first time I've ever seen Empoleon get an attack animation, and Empoleon dabs on him. I didn't quite realize that. if you saw that, so that's a cool animation. It just went for that little flash cannon, just sent out a quick dab. Got the Chimp out onto its sash, and it is inside range of Grassy Glide. However, Grassy Glide can't really stop this extreme speed from coming out, and it does not look like Janice is quite equipped to stop this E-Speed from just kind of doing what it wants. Maybe there's one thing she could theoretically do, which could maybe be wood hammering the Dragonite, just because the Chin Pao is currently having sort of ruin in place. So Dragonite will take a lot of extra damage with this wood hammer. So she does opt to Terra Fire, presumably to resist the Ice Spinner coming out from this Chin Pao.
Not opting for the Fake Out either, which would have knocked out the Chin Pao. Let's see if she reads the Chin Pao protecting, doubling into the Dragonite to try and take it off of the field. The extreme speed coming out from Dragonite into the Rillaboom. Oh
critical hit.
Oh, the critical hit. That is so tough. Oh, Rillaboom, you tried, buddy. And so not only does Janice lose Rillaboom, she lost her Terra without getting anything for it.
So, okay, I gotta say, I actually do not quite like that play that Robert went for with Protect on his Chin Pao, because, number one, yes, the Rillaboom could have gone for a Fake Out into Chin Pao. However, you would have gotten off an extreme speed, and if it not go for a Fake Out, like we saw that Wood Hammer, Ice Spinner, Double Tap would have knocked it out. So if it clicked Fake Out on a Chin Pao, that's okay, because Dragonite would have gotten off an attack. But Robert decided to go for the Protect, which it would have backfired if the critical hit did not come out from his extreme speed on that turn, because that normally does not knock out Rillaboom without a crit.
Oh, that was a very, very big critical hit. Dragonite, extreme speed, going right for the Armarouge. Doesn't quite knock it out, but the double up into it is going to take it off the field. Robert ignoring the Empoleon
the whole game.
All game. It was the lone thing on Janice's team that resisted the extreme speed. Robert saw his opportunity to be able to double up into things and knock them out quickly, and it looks like we are going to see a very quick 2-0 unless something crazy happens.
No. So I would like to make a case study on this. Basically, So Janice is using an unconventional Pokemon. That Pokemon is Empoleon. By the way, congratulations, Robert Bosch, on winning. But the thing is, with those unconventional Pokemon, if they are not if they don't have a lot of active pressure on the current board, they will literally just be a waste of a slot. So you're basically playing a 1v2. So we kind of saw that play out because, yes, Empoleon got off one flash cannon. Yes, it got off, like another attack. Like, I got off 2 attacks total. But Robert was just like, great, I'm up against an Empoleon. I'm just going to ignore this thing and just attack the ally every single turn. And Robert was kind of able to just abuse the fact that, because, if that was like a Flutter Mane, for example, it might exert way more pressure into that board. So,
that was a very, very well-played game by Robert Bosch. Now, of course, a little bit of RNG goes against Janice in that game 1, but game 2, Robert put the pressure on and did not let it cease.
Yeah, besides that critical hit with the extreme speed, that actually locked it up, but even without that, I still think Robert was in a great position, absolutely.
Well, we've seen 2 Snow teams on stream so far today, and Snow, even with the changes in Scarlet and Violet, now getting the 1.5 times defense boost to Ice types, wasn't really able to hold its weight against some of these hard hitters.
Nope. Yeah, that's why I use Dragonite Chien-Pao, is because it wins, and it wins quick. Literally, I remember it's been a thing since Series 1. You just have to, or not Series 1, not the Chien-Pao, the E-Speed Dragonite was. Series 3, or Regulation C is whenever the Chien-Pao Dragonite really became a thing. But basically, like, the ability to just Terra Normal and get access to a same type attack bonus boosted extreme speed, which is +2 priority, by the way, nuts. It's absolutely insane. And just combining that with the Chien-Pao, it's so potent. Like, you literally can OHKO anything that's not bulky or does not resist it. So, like, your frail stuff, like, it's gone. Like, it's so quick.
Oh, absolutely. And on Janice's side, she has the Armor Rouge, which in most situations, and is known as one of the OG Scarlet and Violet duos, Indeedee Armor Rouge. Without the Indeedee on the field to stop those priority attacks, leaves that Armor Rouge in a very, very difficult spot.
Now, the one thing that Robert also does have in addition is that he does have Ice Spinner on his Chien-Pao. So obviously, that could theoretically get rid of that terrain. However, it would block the extreme speed for a turn. So, like, something like that could, like, allow you to get just one extra turn in those matchups. So, totally right on that one. Absolutely. That's, with something to block priority could have been very good there. Or maybe a Ghost type on Janice's team, because she doesn't have a single Ghost type. So that's probably why Robert led with that, is because he just looked at, her team. He's like, oh, wait, there's no Flutter Mane, no Goldango. Great. I'm just going with the Reliable.
Well, and that's an interesting thing with these 2 teams. We've discussed usage stats a little bit here already. On Robert's team, you've got Ogerpon, which is sitting at roughly 50%.
Yep.
It is currently the most used mon in this mid-season showdown, but it doesn't have Flutter Mane, who's been since Regulation B at the very top. And there we see our usage stats. Ogerpon, of course, that includes all 4 forms, is able to finally unseat Flutter Mane as the top used mon. But Robert not carrying the Flutter Mane, Janice not carrying the Ogerpon or the Flutter Mane. But that just goes to show that even though these are the highest used mons, you don't have to use them in every situation. You find a team and build around some of these really, really good mons and find out what works best for you.
Yeah, like, if you're looking to, like, get into Pokemon, first of all, now is, like, the best time, debatably, to get into it, because literally the season just started. It's the World Championships. It's for a whole nother year away. We have a whole season to get back in. So if you're listening to this and you have not quite looked into getting into competitive Pokemon, now is the time to learn about it. There's a few resources online, very, very easy to kind of get into right now. But, like, going to, like, team building in particular, like a skill which kind of gatekeeps a lot of people, is because they don't know how to build teams. Like, what I would usually do whenever I was like kind of new, like looking to get into it, is I would just like pick some Pokemon that work well together. So like maybe just a few of these. Like I look at them and think, okay, well, Urshifu is a sweeper and it's top of the usage stats. So I'll start with Urshifu. I'll combine Urshifu with Qianpao because Qianpao is a sort of ruin, and then you have like a solid like opener with that, and then kind of expand upon it. It's like what else might your team need? It's maybe I would need Tailwind, so I'll throw in a Tornadus. Maybe I need Intimidate. I'll throw in a Landorus, and then it's like from there it's like you just kind of want to logic it out. So you don't always just want to break down just the individual like usage stats. It does help you to see what people are using and what's good, but also it's you want to make sure like your team above everything has the ability to synergize with each other. That's the most important part of team building.
Absolutely. Oftentimes, when you're looking to start team building, are you one who tries to, typically stick with a certain type of gameplay, something like hyper offense or a trick room variant, potentially bulky offense, or do you typically, pick around like the fire, water, grass core kind of thought process?
So that's a good question. Usually what I tend to do is inside each individual format, I kind of start with fire, water, grass, just because the reason why you want to go with fire, water, grass is because it creates a solid 50-50 matchup. So the logic of why you want to have a well-balanced team is that if you and I are up against each other 50-50, you could win, I could win. Essentially, I would just trust in my abilities and my experience as a player to player difference the rest, where it's like, even though it's a half chance, if we keep playing a longer game, then I would ideally come out on top inside my head, because I'm trying to just look for, you making a mistake and catch you on your mistake. So I personally always start with fire, water, grass. That's what I always start with. That being said, though, some formats, fire, water, grass feels very bad. Like, it feels like your best matchups are like 40-60, where it's like 40% in your favor, 60% in their favor. And if it's a format like that, like kind of these formats, I'd say before Home came out, before Landers came out, that's what everything was kind of like. So I kind of lean more towards like hyper offense, like Fluttermane, Chi-Yu stuff. I really loved using Fluttermane, Chi-Yu, because you could go a different kind of build on it, where like you're bulky, but you also do a bunch of damage, and just overwhelm them. In general, the teams I build, I always want to have at least like 2 Pokemon that like essentially just can burst through them like turn 1, because there was this one regional, I remember like I lost up against someone who on paper I shouldn't lose to, but my team choice, I couldn't keep up with the tempo of the game, where like they were going hyper offense, my team was way too I felt like I was lagging, where it's like, okay, I know they're gonna do this, but what can I do about it? And since then I decided, okay, you need at least 2 Pokemon where you can just run through them, because I could read them theoretically. My team didn't have the tools to keep up with that.
Well, another thing to consider when team building, now we showed the usage stats. You see the Ogerpon at 50%, you see the Fluttermane at 48%, the Iron Hands is 40+%. How do you go about trying to fit these high usage mons onto your team? Because there's so many different ways to run them. Now, Iron Hands typically is the Assault Vest variant. However, in what situations are you able to train your Pokemon differently than somebody else? Because you could have a team that has, the same 6 Pokemon on the other side of the field and do something completely different. And I think that's an important note for newer players who potentially see, if they're watching a stream, they're seeing a lot of the same Pokemon, a lot of the same teams in general, but that doesn't mean that the Pokemon is the same, right?
So, is your question like
along the lines of, when you're trying to team build, how do you take Fluttermane for example? Now, Janice, in the previous match, we saw Choice Specs Fluttermane. However, we've seen Booster Speed, Booster Special. In what situations are you trying to determine what's best for you?
Got it. So that is an excellent question. So, basically, how I usually decide on my move sets, the abilities, the specific effort values I train my Pokemon with, all that stuff, is what I usually do is I just, first of all, like two different ways. If it's something that there's no current copy paste way to play it, I try to look at it. Like for example, Ogre Pawn. I was just scrolling through its moves it gets. I was like, okay, Spiky Shield's really cool, better than Protect objectively, and get some chip. All right, I'll throw Spiky Shield on. And then I saw that it gets Ivy
Ivy Cudgel.
Ivy Cudgel. It gets Ivy Cudgel. And then I was like, okay, well, you got to play this because high critical hit chance, base 100, 100. It's so good. Signature move, that was a no-brainer. Slap that one on. Then, like, the next two moves, like, if you're playing, like, let's just say the water version, like the Wellspring version, or, like, the fiery one, like, you're going to want, like, it's your second move will either be, like, a second same type attack bonus. So, in this case, I would throw on Wood Hammer or maybe Grassy Glide if I had a Rillaboom on my team. And then the third move is kind of up to you. Like, you could, we've seen Swords Dance. You could go, like, Follow Me. You could go Taunt. So like whenever it's a brand new Pokemon, I usually try to like break the limits and try to like define like, okay, what is good about this thing? I know historically Spiky Shield has been a good move. This new move looks so busted. I know Follow Me is good. And then if it's an old Pokemon, I would look at what's currently being used. I would just slap on what's currently being used. Like Choice Specs Flutter Mane, I've played a lot with that and I love how it plays. So much so that I don't like using any other Flutter Mane just because I like. For me, it's the opportunity cost of not using Choice Specs Flutter Mane, which makes it so valuable. So I guess to summarize, just it's simple bulletin points. Basically, if it's a new Pokemon, what I would do is look at its movesets, figure out what it can and cannot do, what it does good, what it does bad, kind of classify it by breaking it in with a deep dive. Don't even focus on EVs or anything. Just look at what specifically it can do. And then if it's an older Pokemon, copy usage stat. And then whenever you're playing, just literally see, hey, I don't like how this feels. I hate Choice Specs. Great, swap it to Booster. That's up to you.
And here we've got to look at the 4 different types of Ogerpon. Now, Ogerpon Teal Mask is the one that we've got on top. It's just grass type, which is unlike the other 3, but it can hold an item, which gives it an interesting level of utility. Now, its ability, being Defiant, is really important right now because you've got a lot of Intimidators running around. We've seen Landorus just about every match so far here on stream. We started with a Hisuian Arcanine, and Defiant, when you get a stat lowered, it raises your attack by 1 stage, giving that Ivy Cudgel even more damage. Now, the other 2, the one right underneath the Teal Mask, we've got the Ogerpon Cornerstone, a grass and rock type. It has to hold the Cornerstone Mask item, so you don't get the same versatility that you do with the Teal Mask Ogerpon, but a rock grass type with Sturdy, meaning it can't be knocked out. You've got a built-in Focus Sash there. And Ivy Cudgel becomes a rock type. The one underneath, we've seen its presence felt already here today. Ogerpon Hearthflame, a fire grass, an interesting combination because we had never seen a fire grass type until Generation 9. We saw Scovillain get introduced. It was the very first, and now a second fire grass type entering the game with Mold Breaker. An absolutely incredible ability to it, and this is one of the Pokemon that I think we should discuss, in depth because of the different options that you have with it. The Mold Breaker non-Terra'd option puts a lot of pressure on Heatran, which we saw as one of the top 10 used mons here today. However, if you Terra it, you get that extra boost to your fire type moves, and it raises its attack. That's a lot of options to consider when either A, it's on your team, or B, when you're facing against it.
Yeah, and okay, so whenever you brought up the first Ogerpon, like the original form where it does not have a mask and can hold an item, just the mono grass version. So number 1, it has Defiant, which you already brought up, and Defiant obviously with like Landorus running around everywhere, it's kind of good. But in addition to having Defiant, it also gets access to a speed boost whenever it terastallizes. So that is just crazy valuable because if it terastallizes, basically its speed It's like, let's say if you get intimidated by a Landorus, for example, you got +1 attack because you got -1 attack, then Defiant product, you get +2 attack, and then you Terra Grass. Now suddenly you're at +1 attack and +1 speed, and that's equivalent of a Dragon Dance, which a Dragon Dance a great setup move, by the way, which usually you only need one of those to win the game. So you don't have to set up to get it. It just costs your Terra, and then you can start sweeping through stuff. So that first Ogerpon form seems very cool. Now, my question for you, Matt, is between the Fire Ogerpon, the one which can boost its offense very, very quickly, with the fire typing, it can raise attack, versus the more defensive one, which the water one, which entirely walls water types and can bypass through Follow Me. Which one, or can bypass through Rage Powder? Which one of those two do you think will end up in higher usage at the end of the day?
I personally think that the fire type one is the Ogerpon Hearthflame is going to be an absolute menace. I've seen clips from people already trying it out, and the amount of offensive pressure that it puts on, if you can pair it with a Tailwind user to boost its speed, if you can pair it next to Qian Pao and get the Sword of Ruin on the field, lowering the defense of the Pokemon on the other side of the field, I've seen a +1 in the sun, Terra, Fire, Hearthflame Mask, Ogerpon, one-shots in Iron Hands. And if you can do that, you are going to be on a lot of teams. Now, personally, in my little bit of messing around with team building, I like the water one because I am a huge Tyranitar fan. But at this point, we are going to take a quick break, get ready for round 4, just about the halfway mark here in Maitland, Florida. Thank you all for tuning in. We're looking forward to being back here for round 4.